A lot of us think that there's a certain percentage of sheriff's deputies, law enforcement officers who are in fact psychopathic, who have some severe mental health issues. And now there is actually some data to support that coming from Alameda County, which is in California. It's a law enforcement office that has more than 1,000 officers. And here, in fact, let's put up the picture of the Alameda County Sheriff, Gregory Ahern. He decided to conduct a test essentially to evaluate the mental health of all of his employees. And here's what he found. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office in Northern California has stripped 47 deputies of their guns and arrest powers because they failed psychological exams. It was reported Monday. It was horrible to have to relieve the deputies of their deputies of their duties. Sheriff spokesman Lieutenant Ray Kelly told KTVU-TV the station obtained a copy of the letter notifying the deputies of their change of status last Friday. The deputies will still receive their pay and benefits. The move came after the sheriff's office conducted an internal audit of deputy psychological examinations from January 2016 to the present. The letter from Sheriff Gregory Ahern notified a deputy whose name was blacked out in the copy that the deputy had been graded D, not suited in a psychological evaluation, and under state law could not serve as a peace officer. The letter said the sheriff's office had previously been operating under incorrect advice received several years ago from the California Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, which said it could hire candidates who received such a rating. Ahern said the deputy can be hired if a second examination declares them suitable, and the office intends to schedule an appointment for such an exam. The Associated Press reports our intention is to resolve this issue as quickly as possible, Ahern wrote. We also intend to have you return to fully duty status once you obtain a suitable finding. Kelly said he hoped the retest would occur in the next 2 months. The test will be conducted by a psychologist who does not work for the sheriff. Well, there's one more aspect to all of this, which is interesting, and that Kelly said the audit followed the arrest earlier this month of former deputy Devin Williams Jr., age 24. Williams is charged with fatally shooting a couple in their Dublin home on September 7th. Williams' mother, Anna Williams, told KTVU-TV that her son had been in a romantic relationship with a woman, Maria Tran, and had believed she was unmarried. Sources say Williams gained entry into the Dublin home at just a little bit before midnight on September 7th and headed upstairs to the master bedroom where 42-year-old Maria Tran lived with her husband, Benson. What followed was a life or death struggle in which a 24-year-old deputy tumbled down a staircase before allegedly executing the couple with his service pistol. KTVU-TV said 4 sources said Williams had failed his psychological exam, although Kelly previously said Williams, who was hired in September 2021, had passed all psychological tests. The Ella Baker Center for Human Rights in Oakland, a nonprofit that deals with race and criminal justice issues, accused the sheriff's deputy of previously turning a blind eye to the problem of unsuited deputies. This further highlights the egregious levels of dysfunction and corruption that have plagued the sheriff's office for years, the center's organizing director, Jose Bernal, said in a statement. Again, when you're talking about 46, 47 sworn officers who are found to not be psychologically competent, if I'm doing the math, Dan, that's about 4% of the entire force. I would have predicted that a higher number would fail in terms of psychological and mental health, but I suppose good for the sheriff that he's trying to figure out who the bad apples are.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what the metrics were in that case and what the metrics were in that test. Was it one of those, like, I was joking with one of my friends how the No Child Left Behind test is one of the easiest tests ever. And maybe it was one of those simple ones. But for folks to understand, like, as people are getting priced out of San Francisco, which is its own county, Alameda County, which surrounds the Bay Area and other cities that are around that, Oakland, Berkeley, etc., is a major player here, and it's where a lot of people are living. If people don't have faith in their police force, they don't have faith that their officers are competent mentally to be able to just solve those crimes, then not only are you gonna have a lack of trust, it's gonna make it harder for officers to do what allegedly they're getting taxpayer money to do, but they are going to end up having moments of lapses of judgment where they put people's lives in danger, and they do just idiotic things like what happened in the story here.
Well, and also what happened here, which is interesting, is on the one hand, the sheriff, Ahern's getting some credit for actually doing this test, but on the other hand, he's not telling anybody if this one officer who executed this couple, if Deputy Devin Williams had actually passed or failed the test. And maybe there's some personnel or criminal issues related to that, but you would think, okay, well, let's determine it's not enough just to test people if you're not gonna use the test results to actually stop certain people. I mean, now he's stripping 47 officers from their guns and whatnot. But again, I mean, where was this effort to try to strip dangerous officers before Deputy Williams went crazy and shot this couple?
Exactly, it's where America is just the country of Band-Aid solutions. We always do, oh wow, there's like 3 gunshot wounds, let's get a Band-Aid here. That's how we do our policy, that's how we do everything top to bottom. But that isn't enough to say, okay, now we're going to do what we should have done a long time ago. This has to be a procedure from the bottom up that happens yesterday. And we need to hold all of our police forces in major cities and even smaller cities where all this stuff gets underreported. They all need to be held accountable.
And I would say accountable not just for their mental health, but also for their knowledge of the Constitution. We do videos all the time on Rebel HQ where I do stuff where basically you have so many police officers out there, even the ones who are mentally stable, who just don't know the Constitution and think that if their feelings get hurt, if somebody disrespects them, well, then that gives them the right to go ahead and ask, okay, give me your ID. Where if somebody has not committed a crime or there's not reasonable articulable suspicion that somebody's committed a crime, citizens are under no obligation to give an officer an ID or answer their questions. A police officer can ask, and a lot of us who don't know our rights may just respond because we're gonna be polite, but every citizen has the right who has not committed a crime to say to an officer, I'm not gonna help you. I'm not gonna provide my ID. And if an officer doesn't like it, too bad. And oh, by the way, the courts have also ruled that if we wanna drive along and give an officer the finger or yell F you, that's protected speech. And an officer has to hold it together, keep his feelings in check and not react to it. But the problem is we have so many officers who I think are not in this because they wanna uphold constitutional rights. They're in it because they're on a power trip. They wanna dominate and control people. So anyway, final thoughts?
No, I think you make a lot of good points there. It's all about control and having power over people. And we need to make sure that people like that who are in it for those reasons are as far away from the lethal weapons as possible.
And there is a connection between people who would abuse lethal weapons, who have issues of narcissism and power, as Dan pointed out, and who get to that area of not being able to pass a psychological test.